I think the inspiring thing when you look back at Redeemer's history, when you look back at the bold and courageous steps that some of Redeemer's founders took to help build Redeemer and to help create the context in which Christian university education could be offered here in Ontario, is that they trusted and relied on God's faithfulness and on His provision.
I think faithfulness and rigor would be the two themes that I would say are consistent with what I've observed at Redeemer throughout its history. Those are two qualities that were required to actually start the school. I mean, what a bold idea, really. It's crazy. But they did it. And that took rigor and faithfulness to the Kuyperian vision they came to this country with.
And so Redeemer is interesting in that it boldly claims what many would consider like an outrageous worldview, right? The mission of Christ. But then you get to actively like pursue that and seek it out through different things.
Yeah, I think a major theme is perhaps like God's faithfulness to this community as we try to live out this pretty audacious vision of sort of Christ holding together and being before all things, and that Redeemer is seeking to sort of learn and develop and train students to investigate all aspects of God's creation and to be sent out as sort of kingdom people to bring reconciliation to this world. It's a really audacious and bold claim and vision that Redeemer has, and yeah, God's been faithful to us over the many years.
They say Redeemer started around a kitchen table with the conversations among three pastors in St. Catharines. And the pivotal moment was in 1976 in November. About 120 were gathered in a room in Conrad Grebel College in Waterloo, and they voted to found the Ontario Christian College Association, and they elected a board.
Things, I was a member of a subcommittee called the Curriculum Subcommittee, and we dreamed dreams about what the curriculum would look like at Redeemer.
And so as the plans were put together, the curriculum and so on and so forth, we approached the provincial government, the Ministry of Colleges and Universities, and there was a flat no. I think what shocked us first was what the Lord did next. And that is, behind the scenes and the possibility of getting a charter came onto the scene in 1980.
So it was a heady time. It was a time of great turmoil and of excitement and of visionary exhilaration.
And so there was a sense that now is the time. God is calling us. This could be a historic moment where we could step into a whole new level of witness for Christ.
It was a very exciting time. Just that our immigrant community, our Dutch immigrant community, was even capable of founding a university was just amazing to me.
The first thing was to put together a faculty, which was not an easy thing because we needed 7 faculty and a librarian, so 8 in all. And on the basis of that, with a good recruiter, we expected 50 students. 100 students showed up. And so there we had the charter, and we had faculty, we had students.
The faculty, the new faculty were young. They were in their 30s and 40s. They were all kind of idealistic. There was kind of a spirit of adventure and of sort of being in a common task for a noble ideal.
When Redeemer started on Beach Boulevard, of course, one of the problems was, where are we going to house the students? They did find suddenly a group of townhomes or townhouses that were all in the same area on Francis Street.
We were living in Burlington, commuting 5 kilometers to get to class every day. It was like you didn't know what was going to happen one day or the next. The lift bridge would be opened and you'd end up being a half hour late for class.
There was 97 students, was the first class. And really, faculty, staff, students were a really united bunch. Lunches were eaten together in the cafeteria, so conversations at lunchtime were always lively and fun.
Well, I started on the Beach Boulevard campus, and teaching chemistry in a kitchen was a challenge.
At Redeemer, learning became a joy. I remember just drinking in the subject matter at times.
And so suddenly, we need another facility, larger. Would it be rented? Would it be permanent? In an uncanny way, the Lord, again, with his fingerprints, opened up a piece of land in Ancaster. And it was put with another piece, and suddenly there were 78 acres, and the community came through to support the construction of a whole campus.
I mean, I remember coming here and seeing this new campus and just being absolutely amazed that we were capable of buying land here, let alone building this beautiful facility.
Redeemer also built out its program so that it truly was arts and science, humanities and social science. And we also added business, and then in 1990, education.
From 1988, when I started at Redeemer, there were about 40 students on average in the business program, class sizes of between 6 and 10. Now we have well over 150 students in the School of Business, and class sizes, actually we have double sections of 2 third-year courses this year for the first time ever. So it's really exciting to see that growth.
Redeemer continued to grow in enrollment, and not only in numbers, but also in the diversity of students. I think as we got into the late 80s, we had maybe 5, 6 students, denominations among the original students. That grew to over 40 different denominations represented in the student body. So there was a real broadening.
I don't think I had consciously met a Dutch Christian Reformed person ever. And most people here had never met an English evangelical Anglican either. And there was this lovely moment when I remembered this quote from C.S. Lewis that overlaps very well with what Abraham Kuyper said about every square inch. C.S. Lewis said, there is no neutral ground in the universe. Every square inch and every split second, God claims and Satan counterclaims, and that was in 1940.
I think Reverend de Bolster was God's person appointed for the right time. He was a man of deep faith. Of course, he was a pastor, he was a minister, but the surprising thing is he understood very well the implications of that for education.
So he always had a love for Christian education, but Redeemer sort of took it to the next level, so to speak. And I think the thing that drove him was he had a really strong, just a strong belief that it is just imperative that as we grow up, we need to learn how to serve in the kingdom of God. And he wanted us to learn that, he wanted the community to learn that, and he wanted to learn and live that himself.
He put together many of the building stones that were necessary for Redeemer to be a bona fide university.
He was proud of being able to represent that community when he went to different places. Loved to bring greetings on behalf of Redeemer wherever he went.
So in the late 90s, worship was a big movement, and a lot of the universities were starting to have worship services in their bars or their pubs. So we decided to hold our first service in the Black Box, which is the small theater room, and we did that to keep it cozy and community oriented, and thus the name Church in the Box. Very quickly, we began to outgrow the theater box, and we had to find a bigger venue. So we moved into the cafeteria, but the acoustics weren't great. So we tried a few different places, and in 1 year, We had many locations, but we ended up, the final church in the box of that year, we moved into the auditorium.
And I'll never forget when they invited me to come to a service, which was very empowering. And I walked in, and there were 1,000 students in there, from Redeemer, from other universities and colleges, high schools. It was like a magnet that just drew everyone together. The first memory is back to '98, when we are gaining momentum to have our charter revised to give Bachelor of Arts and Bachelor of Science degrees. And so we're getting all ready, and we had a prayer team here, and we get to the office. We're feeling a bit tense, and we open the door, and the president of the COU says to me, "I know you probably have a big presentation ready, but I just want you to know that we're not going to oppose your request." And we felt like the Israelites who had shown up, but the Lord had already been there ahead of us and won the battle.
I remember being in the balcony at the Ontario Parliament buildings when Redeemer's charter was changed, and instead of becoming Redeemer College, we are now Redeemer University College, where my Bachelor of Christian Studies degree became a Bachelor of Arts degree.
When I returned in 1998, Redeemer was much larger. Far more students, far more staff. We had lab instructions and a whole area for the science department. The students had dorms on campus. There was far more co-curricular activities going on.
The enrollment increased dramatically. And then another amazing challenge, we went before the Ontario College of Teachers, and in 2003, our teacher education program was accredited by the Ontario College of Teachers, meaning that our graduates could teach not only in private schools, but also in Catholic schools and public schools. They had the full license, and they began to come in such numbers that we had to expand our facilities, not once, not twice, but 3 times.
One of the first additions, or the first renovations I remember, was all the offices, the front offices. All the people who were upstairs were moved downstairs, and the downstairs people were all moved upstairs, and we had to do a lot of shifting and a lot of moving around. About 15 years ago, we did a huge addition out the front of the property. That was the library and all the classrooms. So we almost doubled the size of the academic building at that time. And that has really served us well.
Redeemer prepared me as a student for entering the world with an open mind, learning how to think, learning how to work through complexity and actually come up with an opinion, come up with a path forward. So I think Redeemer has an important role to play in preparing students to be active participants in addressing the complex world that we live in, and being hopeful at the same time, despite the challenges that we all face.
I mean, I took an education from it, but I took so much more than that. I took a group of friends. I took experiences that I still cherish to this day. I built my faith in this school. I think it was formative years for me, the 4 years, and being able to have people around me that had the same worldview and the same faith as me was really helpful in that. And so when I look back, I'm so thankful for my time that I had here. It was really, really important, and yeah, Redeemer is just the best.
3 years into my teaching here, my dean at the time said, "Have you thought about taking students to Texas?" Okay, there was just a hurricane in Texas, Hurricane Rita. And she said, "Well, why don't you get some students together, go to Texas, do some hurricane cleanup. We'll even give you time off from your classes, and you come back." So that was one of the most formative experiences here. I learned so much from my students. We formed a team, we did work, we chainsawed fallen trees, we tarped roofs. So these kind of team building experiences were so central.
I had a game where I was playing, and I didn't have a good attitude about the game. So coach pulled me off, and he was able to talk to me on a level that I recognized, because he was a Christian, I was a Christian, and that stands out in my memory because it was a way that I was supported in my faith, not just as an athlete,
but as a Christian athlete.
Some of my best memories of my time at Redeemer as a student was dorm life and the lifelong friendships I made with my dorm mates, who to this day are still among my best friends. So it's kind of interesting to sort of be on that other side where I'm teaching. My main interaction with my students is in the classroom. But I know from my own experience that there's this whole world of experience and formation that's happening for them too.
I started at Redeemer University College, and then I will graduate from Redeemer University, and that is also fun to be able to tell people, Redeemer University, there's no question about it.
Well, I think one of the most exciting things about Redeemer today is that the momentum that we've built in recent years. I think we're figuring out how to take a strong theological and philosophical foundation and translate that more meaningfully to tomorrow's students and helping them see the impact of a Redeemer education.
So watching this renaissance, I would call it, it's the second rebirth of this school. And to watch his generation take up the mission is just amazing. It would make my grandparents very proud.
Yeah, coming to Redeemer, it was very exciting for me. Coming from Rwanda, which is a community-based society, because it's such a small community, it's such a small school. Everyone is always together, having food, sharing meals, sharing Bible studies, and it was just amazing. I felt like that is exactly where God wanted me to be.
What I value a lot is how much effort my professors put into getting to know you and the courses, and so I can see a lot of real-world applications in my studies already.
An amazing experience of not just learning about school, but also learning and evolving your faith.
I would say that Redeemer is preparing me well, not just in my major, but also in my faith journey as well.
It's really neat to see how Redeemer has changed so much in the last few years. It has acquired so many modern amenities, but it still has that same cozy community feel that it had 25 years ago. It's also so awesome to see how God has just had his hand on Redeemer. He's protected it and he's increased it and he's held it. And it's amazing also to think of how many lives have been changed and molded and moved by being in this place.
To see the new buildings being built, to see professional parking lots, to be able to redo furnishings in the residences and in the classrooms, to update the food service areas and the commons for students. I like those positive changes.
We've been working on integrating more experiential learning opportunities for students and seeking to create stronger connections between what they're doing in the classroom and where God will lead them after they leave the university.
Yeah, well, I think we've come a long, long way to doing chemistry in the kitchen sink at Beach Boulevard. We've been very blessed to have some significant investments. We've got top-notch sort of lab instrumentation. The things we're able to do now with our students is quite remarkable. Yeah, it's really exciting. So that growth, the opportunity to train more students, to have relevant, modern facilities is really exciting.
I think one of the legacies when you look back at the founders of Redeemer and some of the first generation faculty, staff, leadership is courage and boldness. And I think that's something we want to carry forward into the future.
What excites me is that I think we've got virtually everything that is needed, that it takes to really move forward. Having said that, we also have to understand that on any trail you're on, there's going to be a lot of challenges and opportunities. And what I like about the Christian ethos aspect of it is I believe we're much more well prepared and understand that those challenges are ahead of us. And we go forth in a very prayerful kind of attitude, realizing that we don't have all of the answers, but that the Lord does.
Boy, what excites me about the future? We're in a unique position here as a Christian university to address some of the key pressing issues in our society, to be a light to our city, to our province.
I hope that students who come to Redeemer experience a sense of hope and positivity. Christians can often feel that the world's a hostile place, but really the opportunities are so immense for us as followers of Jesus to live in hope, to live towards the renewing of all things.
You know, every class brings with it new excitement. I'm excited to see what they're going to do, how they're going to change the world.
Well, I think that Redeemer will continue to do what it's best at, which is to equip young people to be faithful, salting salt in the society where they live, and also to advance Christian scholarship.
I think it's important for faculty to be engaged in research as well as in the community as much as possible, to give the institution also a visible presence, that it doesn't just care about its students, but it cares about the community in which we live.
I'm excited about our ability to grant way more degrees, including graduate degrees. I mean, it's thrilling to me.
Really, for me, the motivation is to be able to hop on a train called Redeemer that's really moving forward, and that I see tremendous growth potential for the university.
Well, it's been a great place for our grandchildren as well. 11 of our grandchildren have gone here or have graduated from here, and we're very thankful as parents that our grandchildren have the opportunity to study in a Christian institution.
Redeemer is also unique because it is a community together under Christ. We worship together, we celebrate together, we proceed together into the future with Christ as our rock and our foundation.
You know, when people say, where will Redeemer be at 40 years from now, I kind of chuckle. I understand asking that question at the 40th anniversary celebration. But I wonder what, the founders of Redeemer would have said 40 years ago, what their vision was 40 years out. And I think for any of us involved in supporting, leading, working at Redeemer, I think the hope always is that no matter whether it's 10 or 20 or 40 years, that the university will be relevant and meaningful and will be having an impact. And I think most of all, faithful to the gospel, faithful to the hope that we have in Christ, that He will make all things new, and that we can begin participating in that work now, and that a university can ground students in that world and life view that will have such a transformative impact wherever they go.